Hi there once again. Welcome to yet another of the KBC vlog series. We are continuing to track through the roadmap to Jesus, a lovely little book by Alistair Chalmers. Alistair serves as a pastor up in Edinburgh, in my old neck of the woods. So thank you to Alistair for this lovely book, which has been really helpful before Christmas and now again in the new year. Today it falls to me to talk to you about the true King. Let me get there though in a moment. When I was a little boy, like all little boys, I had heroes who I would try and emulate. One of my first heroes I remember was a footballer called Billy Bremner, and so I would be out on the local football pitch with my friends trying to emulate and copy some of his fantastic play. As I grew up, my mind became more sophisticated, I suppose. In high school, my heroes became people like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, with their belief in non-violent resistance. Musically, I followed a band called U2, I still do, and a hero there called Bono. But you know, as I look back and I think of Billy Bremner and even Martin Luther King and Gandhi and certainly Bono, yeah, they're all good guys in the main, but they all had flaws. They all had things that let them down, and ultimately, if you have heroes that let you down, they stop being quite so appealing, don't they? Well, in the ancient days of the Old Testament and in the book of Jeremiah, where we're reading from in a moment, the people of Israel were wanting a hero. They wanted a new figure. They wanted a king. They'd seen all the other countries round about them have kings, and they thought, I want one, we want one. And although God had reservations about giving them a king, He did graciously give them one. But let me just read one bit that Alistair wrote. He said, "The Lord graciously granted them their wish, but He also warned them of the dangers of having a sinful human being rule over them. However, they did not listen." Well, that's fairly typical of human beings. All of us can be guilty of not listening, can't we? And so it was that God gave them kings. They had had judges before that, and both the judges and the kings that they had were a mixed bag, it has to be said. Sometimes they got a good judge, sometimes they got a bad one. Sometimes they got a very good king, other times they got a really bad king. But even the very best of the kings that they got, people like David and Solomon, they all had their flaws. David sinned, do you remember, with Bathsheba? Solomon, although being the wisest man in history, he also made some unwise choices. And so even these good guys, these good kings, had their flaws and their faults. And that's true even to this day in human history. Even the best person who has ever lived on this planet Earth has failed to live up to God's exacting and holy standards. How do I know that? Well, because the Bible tells me that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Let me just read two verses from Jeremiah 33 today, where it says this: "In those days and at that time, I will make a righteous branch sprout from David's line," so it's God speaking. "He will do what is just and right in the land. In those days Judah will be saved and Jerusalem will live in safety. This is the name by which it will be called, the Lord, our righteous Saviour." And so this book, called Roadmap to Jesus, is a great reminder, even in its title, that the Old Testament is pointing forward. It's pointing forward to the arrival of a Saviour. We've just had Christmas. We've celebrated the birth of that Saviour, but we must also recognise that it was the birth of the King, not just any king, the King of Kings and the true King, the sinless, perfect Son of God. Jesus is that true King. Jesus is that perfect King, that perfect example for us to follow. The one who would go on to say that his kingdom is not of this world. This King is perfect. This King is the perfect role model for us to follow. Not Billy Bremner, even if you remember him. Not Bono. Not Martin Luther King, not Gandhi. None of these. Only one true, perfect role model. The one who we would do well to imitate and follow with our lives. And after all, unlike all of these other role models that I mentioned, he will never let us down. He is our true King our perfect example, our perfect guide in how to live our lives. Thanks for listening and tuning in again. We look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care. Have a great day.